Hi everyone. Say hi vizuri ni kama umekula. Thank you so much, Laban. So, I'm really excited and deeply humbled to be invited. When I was asked to moderate, I was like, "Sumnieke tu kwa panel, unanieke tu kwa panel," you know? But I'm really excited and humbled. And thank you so much to Patience and the team, and also to Kofisi at large. And you know, when I was looking through the bios and I was looking through the LinkedIn profiles, something stood out to me. It's very easy for us to look at people and assume that we know them, you know? And we assume that, you know, just based on their titles, we can assume that that's all that they are all about, right? But when we were simply chatting with the panelists, I got to understand there's so much behind the screen. And this is your chance as the audience to ask questions, to interact, you know, to get to learn more about who they are, their journeys, and how you can implement one or two things in your career or business, right? So, can you guys help me a little? I need help. Right? So I need like two people who can stand up and tell me what they expect to, you know, get out of this session. And just look at me. Look at me. Lovely. So I already have one person that I want to ask. Tell me, what do you like to learn, or what do you expect to get out of this session?
Hi everyone. My name is Sylvia. Nice speak. I learned about this event today, this morning as I was coming into work. Got to the office and no one was there, so I asked, what's happening? And then I was told there's a women's event that you need to attend and get to learn. So found out it's about tech. I recently started working with a lot of platforms. And I didn't expect at this day and age that I would need to keep learning and relearning and upskilling. And I'm hoping out of this, I can get to meet people, get to learn more of what is happening in the tech world. And yeah, that's it for now.
A round of applause for Sylvia. Thank you so much. I know, I am walking, and I'm getting to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Monene. I'm here representing Powerland Projects. I'm with the team. My expectations for today, I'm looking forward to hearing platforms that I can utilize. I run community operations with Annabelle, where I work. So platforms that I can utilize to, you know, point women in that direction, looking at empowerment, looking at positions of power, positions of influence. So yeah, that's my expectation for today. Thank you.
So much. A round of applause, please. And last but not least.
Hello, good morning. My name is Gatimu. I'm here for my daughter. I came to support her. And I'm expecting great things. And mine is not a question or expectation, but I am really happy and privileged to be here because you know where we were placed as women. But today I came just to say congratulations to these wonderful women. And I'm looking forward to hear what they're saying. God bless you.
How beautiful. I love mothers. They're so sweet, yeah? Yeah? Yeah, I only remember about my mom who's like, I don't even know what you do, but you do some tech stuff, right? So that's beautiful. A round of applause again, and appreciate yourselves. Thank you for making the time, and also appreciate the men in the room. Thank you for supporting us, yeah? So, every time I speak at an event, I collect facts. Yeah, I collect truths on how that day is gonna be. So one thing that I have noted in every event is that every introduction commences with either a struggle, then you highlight your successes, or you commence with the successes, then you highlight your struggle, but both and all are relevant to your story. Isn't that true? Isn't that true? amazing. So anyway, I'd like to introduce our amazing panelists, our guests, who have taken the time and also have had an absolutely amazing journey. And this is even in all that of both beauty and brains. So that's a plus, yeah? So on stage, I'd like to introduce first and foremost Esther Gatimu from Power, Land and Project. Thank you as she comes on stage. Thank you so much for joining us, Esther. And next, I'd like to introduce Faith Poricho from Amazon Web Services. Thank you. Lovely, lovely. And next, I'd like to bring on stage Linet Kwamboka, the lovely Linet. Oh, she does a lot. Karibu, Linet. And I'd also like to introduce Salim, the product girl. Amazing. And last but not least, the Queen MVP herself, Ndegwa from Meta. Thank you so much. I think I can sit over. Yeah. Lovely. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me. We'll take your photo, Vilenaka. Beautiful women. Yeah? So, before we get started, I have two things I'd like to say. Number one, to the audience, as you're winding down this particular session, I'll ask randomly, just like we did as we were commencing, what are your two major key takeaways from what you have had from their personal experiences, and what would you implement in your day-to-day? And also, I will ask randomly as well, what are the two things that you are going to implement and also bring and rally in more women into the tech space? Okay, and to the panelists as well, right? I have two juicy questions that I'm not going to tell you what it's about. Okay, now to get started, I'd love for each and every one of you to introduce yourself, just to give us a little bit of your day-to-day and what you do and where you work. So we're going to start from my right.
So hi everyone, my name is Esther Gatimu. I am really, really excited to be part of this amazing panel and to be here with such amazing women. I have the privilege to work at Powerland Project as the Communications and Outreach Manager. And Powerland Project is basically an impact organization. We are driving transformative change by providing young people with access to affordable and accessible tech training through our software development program. And we believe that technology is basically a powerful equalizer. And we do this, and we've made it our mission to ensure that young people have the tools to be able to succeed. And yeah, I'm really, really excited to be part of this panel, to be able to just share my experience and also just to learn from the collective wisdom from the room. Thank you.
A round of applause, please.
I'm Faith Muricho. I work at AWS. Most people know it as Amazon, but there's Amazon, so we don't sell stuff, and then there's AWS. We do cloud computing. We have so many customers. We work mostly behind the scenes, infrastructure, building infrastructure for organizations. I'm so glad to be here today. I don't do a lot of this, so if I panic, just please excuse me. I don't do a lot of this. I'm one of those people who I'll get an opportunity and then I'll have people behind me pushing me, just go do it, just go do it. So up until today, I was just thinking, do I really need to do this? Yeah, but I'm here. I'm really excited to just also learn and hear what else is happening out here. Literally built a career behind a screen. Been an ops manager for a while now. Probably this is what's been in the industry for like 17 years. Spanning across banking, e-commerce, logistics, and now found myself at AWS. Looking forward to just learning today. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Faith. Round of applause, please.
Hi everyone, how are you doing? All good? Yes, my name is Linet Kwamboka. I am the proverbial master, Jill of all trades, and thankfully master of many. I professionally am a software engineer. I work at the Global Partnership for Sustainable Development Data, which is a department under the UN Foundation, and I lead our capacity development work in Africa and Latin America, so working primarily with governments to give them skills and capacity. We do a lot of infrastructure, we do a lot of soft skills around data science, computer science, machine learning, AI. But I also do carpentry, so I'm a carpenter, a proud one at that. I build furniture for all age groups, and I love it because it allows me to apply my mathematical and physics and science passion into developing, furniture, which is quite interesting. I did not mention this to the panelists when we were having coffee. I actually own part of a hospital, which is quite interesting, just getting to see how the healthcare system in Kenya works. But I also have been in the space for about 15 years. I own a company called Data Science Limited, which is starting 11 years this November. That is a software engineering company that is focused on creating sustainable information systems. So we've done a lot of work, and I'm so honored and pleased to be here to meet this panel of amazing and very beautiful women, but also, to meet the audience. It was quite amazing. I get very passionate when I see mothers supporting. I have 2 little girls. Amazingly, I met Mina, who went to the school that my daughter, who's 4, is going to currently. So it's quite amazing to already be, in a circle of people who are just so inspiring and amazing, and I look forward to this conversation. Thanks.
Wow, amazing. Mothers in the house. And
hi, everybody. I'm Salim. I talk really fast, so I'll try and speak slowly now. I work in many things like Linet, but I call myself a builder, so I currently work as a product manager. We bring software to life, so we work with developers, designers, and other kinds of engineers to bring an idea into life through the concept of software. And then what I do for other things is I do research consulting. I think I've built the bulk of my career over the last 15 plus years working in education and tech with all the cool local companies that have e-learning, m-learning software. And in my private time, I teach kids how to build anything with electronics and robotics. This year we're pivoting a little to AI. Yeah, nice to be here. It's been amazing meeting the panelists. So I think we'll have a good time with also you, the audience, and I look forward to engaging. Thank you.
round of applause, please.
Good morning, everyone. I am really pacing myself. She says she talks fast, I probably talk faster. So if I was to speak in my normal way, you probably would only hear blah, 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 blah. I am Ndegwa. I am a mom, so in terms of what I do every day, I'm constantly in conversations where I'm negotiating my positions, trying to convince an 8-year-old or a 13 going 14-year-old, all of which are my children. There's 3, there's another one in between. So like I like to say, I'm raising future leaders, and I'm so determined to make sure that I raise them proper. You know how you date a guy and you're like, who's your mother? I don't want someone to date my son and ask that question. So I'm trying really hard to be a good mom and to guide them and tell them things they need to do to be better men, and for my daughter to be a lovely young lady to someone. And so my job is no different at home as it is at work. I'm constantly mentoring, I'm constantly advising, I'm constantly negotiating positions, which is what I'm doing every day in my public policy role. I'm constantly trying to just improve the spaces I'm in terms of how I'm influencing those spaces. And so that's really what I'm about. But in terms of professionally, I am a public policy professional. I'm currently working for Meta, where I'm lending my services to that lovely organization that is the brand company in charge of Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger, and there's more other services and platforms we don't have here, but will come. So hopefully, at least you are on one of those, hopefully, of those platforms that we are trying to get to connect people, to bring people more closer together, to empower you to build your own communities and pursue the things that you're passionate about, but also to help you empower yourselves in terms of job creation. You know, are you able to use those platforms to speak about or advertise things that you are creating with your hands or services you offer, whether you're doing this as a hospital or doing it as a consultant or whatever it is you're doing, using those platforms to improve the reach that you could have previously. Probably you were only able to reach your neighbors or people you went to school with, but now this gives you the access to reach anyone and everyone in the world that is using those platforms, and we are really delighted to be able to provide those solutions and platforms that can give you that access. So that is what I'm about, providing access, empowering, enabling, both at home and in my social spaces as well as at work. But I'm really pleased to be here to do the same. Hopefully this session will share a little bit of my experiences as a person, and it will encourage someone, or at least you could share that with someone else who will get encouraged. So looking forward to doing this and hanging out with fantastic women. We've had a good church in there. I wish you guys were there. We're actually wishing, could the audience come into the room where we're like brainstorming prior? But we will bring that good vibe here as well. So looking forward to this and pleased to meet you all. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Have you had those introductions? Surely. Like another round of applause, please. This goes to show that there is no limitations in terms of what you can do, who you can become, regardless of the many things that you have to incorporate in your day-to-day lives. You know, whether you're a mom, not a mom, you know, there are other things that you're also doing that are a unit to your entire ecosystem. Yes? So with that being said, I'd like to pivot a little and let's talk about navigating challenges, yeah? Let's talk about how it's an easy way to look at things and think to yourself that if I was in their shoes, I would do it from point A to B to C, and this is how I would, maybe navigate, this is how I would probably take over this particular problem, yeah? But we all have different ways that we think about, our day-to-day, our problems that we have to deal with, whether it's in the career space, in our social circles, etc., etc. So to you, Anne, when you're navigating the product development space, what are some of the challenges that you have encountered, maybe working as a consultant, immersing yourself into a company and leading them to building different products? Are there challenges in terms of leadership, direction? What are some of the hiccups?
All right, yeah, thanks. That's a good question. So one of the things people ask is, what does a product manager do all day? And we're really just negotiating positions. I think I really like what she said. So I'm working with the client who maybe has hired us to build a software, and then I'm working with the company that has hired me to provide my professional services. And then I'm working with developers, that's front-end engineers, back-end engineers, designers, quality assurance engineers. And then on the other hand, we are trying to build this product for customers, so we're also working with customers. So this year we have a software we're building, and it presented a challenge where the requirements are quite massive. So I was telling them the other day that sometimes you look at products you're using every day, like Facebook, etc., and you can look at your news feed and you think that, oh, that's just one feature. There's actually like 5 different features in one feature. And so to get it to build, you have to negotiate positions of what will we prioritize first, and then my interest in prioritizing one thing over another means the client has another interest altogether. So last couple of weeks, there's an update we haven't sent to the system, and the marketing team has done a big ad in a big TV agency, and now customers are coming in, and so we're trying to negotiate where my back-end team has to send the update, but the infrastructure team hasn't fixed something they need for the update to work. And the client is here negotiating with the marketing team, asking, why are things not working? And then we're here, and my company has been consulted to do this kind of job. And so negotiating different positions and trying to figure out whose priority should I place first? What is the cost of placing that priority first? And on one hand, we had to say, we'll make concessions where we'll meet you halfway, but if we rush this update, these are the problems you'll face down the line. So having to think through that. Those are some of the things I deal with on a daily. I don't know if I've covered it, but that's just one example of navigating. So you're always constantly negotiating your position with different stakeholders. It's a very stressful job because then every day you're facing one crisis after another. It's like leading ops. I used to be an ops manager in 2016, and someone asked me, what's your job? I said, I defuse bombs daily. Because you can come to the office and there's an employee who's sick, or there's money that you need to transfer somewhere, or a client has not paid on time, you have payroll looming around the corner. You know, every day there was bombs. So when I transitioned to product management, I thought, oh, that's going to be easier than ops. Oh, I was wrong.
Yeah, I can see how. Yesterday I was listening to an interview by Vusi Tambekwayo. He does a podcast on ideas that matter. And he was speaking on the art of projecting. So he said that, we can set up all these particular projections on Excel, and Excel will give you beautiful numbers on what you could achieve until you get kwa grau, like literally get into the action of building certain products, maybe navigating your business, etc., etc. And this question goes to Linet. So as an entrepreneur and also a person who's navigating the professional landscape, how has your journey been in terms of navigating both elements, and also when you think about projecting within your professional life of how you'd expect to grow or how you have grown, and also projecting in the entrepreneurial space, how do you correlate both and how do you navigate that?
Thank you. I like to say that I have the privilege of being a last born in a family of 8. When I started my company in 2013, I was doing my cost benefits analysis. At that point, had just come back from Carnegie Mellon University, doing a fellowship in software engineering, and seeing the things that are happening there. Every day I was exposed to PhD students, doing amazing things, writing all these, amazing algorithms, and I thought, surely I can go back home and do that. And when I did, I looked at it and I said, if I lack rent, I have 7 siblings. I can, go sleep in any one of their, couches. And I had a really good friend then who said, you're trying to sell data to people. Who's going to buy data? I started a company when starting companies was not a cool thing to do. And he said, well, if you ever lack food, just call me and I'll buy you food. And I had the privilege of a support system. I had people who were, rooting for me and backing me up and saying, go for it. And through my personal and career life, I have had the privilege, even in my role, I had a one-to-one with the CEO of the Global Partnership, and I said, one of the reasons I enjoy working here is this organization has understood that I'm an entrepreneur first. And you have enabled me to do the things here, to think crazy. Basically, here's the concept note, here's the budget, go make it work. And somehow I navigate that and I get it done. We're currently working on the Kenya National AI Strategy, supported by GIZ, who actually sits on this building. And it was a very similar thing. This is what the government is thinking about. This is the budget. Can you make it work? In a couple of months, we will be launching the Kenya National AI Strategy. So having kind of that privilege of people trusting in my skills and people trusting my ability to do hard things. There's a book called, The Art of Doing Hard Things, has really helped me navigate. So, navigate the ecosystem, navigate everything without overthinking it. Without overthinking, I liked in her setting expectations, she said, understanding the history of where women have come from. And I am, a beneficiary of being a woman but not being put in that space of, where women have come from, but being a woman and being trusted to do the right thing. But then part of that is also looking at my limitations as a person and the number of things that I do, and sometimes, putting new things on there just for the shock effect. But then what do I have control over when I'm doing things? All these fantastic projects that I do. I wake up in the morning. I used to go to the gym until a couple of months ago. So understanding that my day has wake up, go to the gym, go to the workshop. I'm trying farming, so run to the farm, come back, sit in front of my computer. In between here, I need to do school pickup. Sit in front of my computer till 9 p.m., getting when the rest of the world is waking up, then, we wake up together and doing this and then starting to figure out how this is also affecting me. And then I did away with the gym. I'm in the transition of convincing myself that the gym is not very important. I've been like, my mother never went to the gym, she's still alive, or my mother never had chia seeds and she's okay. But, kind of always questioning what's important. As Anne was saying, what falls on the priority list and what falls off, and that's okay. But just making sure that, you're always taken care of. And in looking at all those things that I'm trying to do, it's also looking at what's the end goal. What am I trying to do and what am I trying to be? I studied computer science. I navigated into software engineering. I did a lot of geographical information systems, and thankfully have been very successful at all of that. But now I work with governments, helping them learn data science skills, helping them learn machine learning, helping them, do AI strategies. But to what end? And I understood it's for them to be able to come up with or implement policies that exist that can then make things better for the citizens. And I started understanding that I have limitations. I'm a very technical person. I'm the kind of person who you'll write a long email and I'll respond with 2 lines, like what needs to be said. That's what I'm going to say. But then looking at my environment and understanding that I am lacking in the public policy part, because I'm very technical. I want to give you skills. How you navigate towards the policy part, the implementation, I really don't care much about that. So actually tomorrow I'm flying out to the UK to start my master's in public policy at the University of Bath. So it's looking, thank you, it's looking at what are my limitations as a person in the things I'm trying to do, and how can I actually, get there. 4 years ago when I had my first daughter, I was joking that when you become a mom in this age for the first time, the first thing you're like, I'm going to be a Montessori mom. My child will never play with plastics. And I started making, wooden rocking horses for her and wooden blocks and things, and looking for, sustainable methods of doing that, and child-friendly paint. Nairobi, but and 4 years later, I'm making a gym for someone with a lot of space for their child, and I'm doing home furniture, and I'm doing all of this, and understanding, well, I'm a software engineer. I don't know anything about woodworking. I tend to know the tools. And so spending a lot of time learning about the methods of doing joinery, for example. We were talking about even the use of wood. What kind of wood do you use when? When it's July, I advise my customers not to use mango wood, for example, because it's not dried out well. Chances are it's going to start, you have to let that dry out well. So my method has really been immersing myself in the problem, teaching myself about the solutions, and implementing those solutions. And that has really helped me in navigating this space, both personally and professionally, always putting myself in a position where I'm learning and teaching myself and improving. Yeah.
That's beautiful. It's so amazing. Thank you so much, Linet. It's so amazing that we can look at things and become extremely burnt out, just trying to go figure everything all at once. But the one thing that Linet is advocating for and also saying is that not everything is within our control. right? There are things that we can plan to do and they fail to go the way we plan them to go, and it's not there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. It's okay for things to fall out of timelines. It's okay, right? And also we were talking about how in the tech space you have very many different personalities, right? There are people who are peoples, and then there are people who are just behind screens, yeah? And one thing that I heard Faith say is that, I'm not really like an outside person. I'm more behind the screen type of person. And the question to you is, as a person who is an operational manager in a tech space, right? How do you navigate, managing teams of different personalities and also just still being able to maintain your you-ness?
Thank you. Yeah, so I think let me start from a bit far back. I think when some of us were choosing computer science as a course in school, there are not so many women out there. Could count, for instance, in my class, I could count 50 men and probably 6, 7, 8 ladies. Yeah, and it was like that through the 4 years. And so I thought, nothing can go wrong. What would go wrong? And I'm here to get my skills and just move on. And then you get into tech space, and the conversations I like how far we've come. Conversation for women in tech and in leadership has really changed. Yeah. And so when we started in tech, the conversation was always, you need to show up more like so-and-so and show up more like so-and-so. And so one of the things we did, which was really awful now that I think about it, was try and show up as men, Yeah. Are they doing this? I'm going to do triple that. And you'd really apply yourself thin, trying to just be like so-and-so and be like so-and-so. And somewhere along the way, that conversation changed. And we started showing up authentically as who we are. And I think that was the game changer for how women started showing up. And now I think when I was transitioning now from tech into leadership, one of the things I did was to just pivot back and ask myself, who am I as a person and what am I good at? Yeah? And so what I did was, and that's when I was literally just pivoting my role into, I want it to fit me. I want, even when I'm 60, I'm excited to do what I did, and I look back and I like the life I lived. Yeah, I didn't show up in spaces because I just needed to show up. I showed up in spaces because I enjoyed and I loved that space. And so that conversation, and it's more an internal conversation, just understanding who am I and how do I show up, and showing up authentically. And what I've realized is, I think the first time I tried this manager leadership thing, I was like, I think I can do this. It sounds interesting, but I think I'm good at it. And that started a conversation for me. And one of the things that I know has been very critical in my journey was realizing, one, I'm very gifted and talented, and it's not something we do as women very well. We don't appreciate ourselves loudly. We don't recognize who we are loudly. We don't talk about our achievements. We don't talk about the things we've done. We like quieting it down. You're like, just tone it down, Sure. I don't know about you guys, but I've been in that space where I'm like, I would send out my profile and someone would like, Faith, you've dumped it down, please, just say what you do. And so over time, what I've tried to do is just be who I am, show up authentically, and ask myself, am I adding value in the space I'm showing up? I don't want to show up like someone else. I want to just show up. There's been never someone like me before in this space. And so that has helped me to show up as who I am, and also understand that I have a very big blind spot when it comes to how I look at my how I show up. So I have had a privilege of having people who've trusted me, people who've seen my value, and people who know when I'm showing up the way I should show up, or I'm showing up a dumped down of me because I'm a bit afraid and thinking maybe I shouldn't do this. And so I've had the privilege of having mentors along the way, and just them showing up in a big space. And one of the things and I don't know if this is a conversation out there, but one of the things I've noticed very well is it's nice to have mentors in your gender. It's nice to have mentors from the other gender. We have very different outlook to how things show up. My best example is one day I sat down with a few of my friends. So we have this little group from just about 5 people. We transitioned together into management, and so we touch base. And one of those days, I asked one of my friends, I was like, so when you see a role and you want to apply for it, what do you look at? It's like, I'll be like, are there 10 job descriptions? I would count how many do I qualify for. If I qualify for 3, I'm applying. I'm like, what? I don't do that. I count, if I qualify for 7, I don't qualify for 3, I'm not applying for that. I'm not even trying, because I have decided I don't qualify. And so I started looking at it differently. I thought, men actually, and I thought it's just them. So I asked a different guy I think he was a CRO at that time. And I asked him, so how do you show up? Like, how do you know you're ready for the next role? And he told me, if I qualify for 3 things, I'll show up. If I qualify for 7, I'm overqualified for that role. That was the game changer for me. I remember going back and sitting down and thinking, how do I show up? Because I dump myself down. I think I qualify for 3, I'm not applying for that job. No way I'm even moving closer. Yeah. So luckily at that point I was being headhunted for a role, a director role. And I'm like, not for me. So I have this mentor who keeps pushing me. I was like, I know what you're going to do. You're going to turn it down. You're going to speak yourself out of the job because of the title. I need you to just look at the JD. How many things can you do on that job description? I was like, I can do 9 out of 10. Which is the one you can do? I told them. Now, when you go to the interview, go say, the reason I'm here is because I don't know how to do this, but I'm a fast learner. I want to learn. I want to use this opportunity to learn. And I remember talking to the guy who was hiring me, was a CTO, and I was like, I like that answer. You know what? We're done with this conversation. I'm hiring you. The problem was, I was being hired to be a director. I had never done budgeting before in the space I was in. Now I'm being told to budget. And I'm thinking, I can't budget for a department. I've never done that. And told me, you know what? You told me I'll teach you. I'll teach you how to do this. Just be my student. You're gonna learn. And it was a good 6-month run. I learned a lot. And because I just allowed other people to show up in my space and to mentor me, and noticing that I'm qualified in some way, I'm good showing up authentically as I am, but also I have blind spots. Now come to AWS, that's one job I literally spoke to the recruiter and told him, I don't qualify, I'm not your person. And the recruiter went like, Faith, you're the perfect person for this job, so please give me an opportunity, let me just interview you. So I interviewed, I got the role, and I show up in a space where I've been in tech space all my life. So there's tech that we do here, and then there's tech that is done in these tech companies. And it's a whole different level. And every day you show up and ask yourself, do I really know what I'm doing here? Like every day I show up and I'm thinking, I don't think I know what I'm doing here. And for the first 2 months of my role, now I'm 1 year in, first 2 months I would wake up every day and I kid you not, I would ask myself, Faith, other than the money and the name of the company, why else are you here? And I had to remind myself every single day, I'm here because I qualified for this role. Wow. And that needs to be a very loud conversation for everyone, because we don't do that. We undersell ourselves, and we don't do that. We don't remind ourselves that the reason I was invited in that room and the reason I've been asked to sit on that table is because I qualify to be there. But the loud conversation in our heads is normally, I don't qualify to be here. Yeah. And so half the time you're talking to engineers who are highly qualified. I had one engineer in my team who's a CCIE certified network. That's like the highest level of networking, of a network engineer. I don't know what he's talking about, but then I would remind myself, I wasn't hired to be an engineer. I was hired to be a manager. And so that, I show up in confidence. And so back then what I did before I came to Amazon was I just went back and told myself, I need to learn how to manage a team. So went back to school, learned my science girl through and through. But I told myself I'm going to do an MBA and just understand what exactly happens in that space. I completed my MBA, I told myself, now I need to go back for another master's, just to understand what exactly happens in these leadership schools and what are people taught. And so realizing that I could just show up authentically as who I am, with the confidence that I'm a good leader, naturally. Yeah. And then there's now that addition from school, and putting that together and just showing up with confidence. What was I hired to do? I was hired to be a manager, and I'm good at it. I was hired to be a leader, and I'm good at it. Doesn't matter what my gender is, it doesn't matter the qualification of the people I was hired to manage. I'm good at what I do. And so that conversation, I keep saying the conversation needs to be louder in your head before other people can convince you out here. But as women, the one thing we do very well is just
dumb ourselves down.
We just like if we were left to our own vices, we would actually be down there. Just let me not do so much. I show up a lot. There's someone who told me, Faith, you show up like 10 people. I'm like, yeah, I know. I show up like 10 people. How cool is that? So
thank you so much, Faith. That's beautiful. It's all about being authentic, showing up authentically you in every particular space, and also being very honest about the things that maybe I do not understand some things, and that does not make me any less for particular roles, And I think the other thing that you mentioned that was really keen is that when you go into these tech spaces, not tech spaces, but like when you're learning how to be a techie and you're coming up, right? Like I was in a class where we only had, I think, 2 girls, and the rest were boys, right? I mean, men, just to be specific. And it was so hard because I used to wonder, is it that women don't care about tech, or is it that I'm in the wrong place, in the wrong role? And I think being able to have that conversation of just advocating for women, telling them, you know what, you can actually come into this role and do it. There is space for you in the tech world, And I think, question to you, Esther, when you're talking about, Power Land Project, how do you promote tech education? Are you more focused or gender specific, or are you open to the large scale? And also, how do you do that reach into universities locally, and how does that go about at Power Land Project?
Thank you for that question. And maybe just to give, I'd share a bit about what we do, but basically we are an impact organization. We offer our program through a scholarship. So the program is fully funded. Wow. And when we're looking for candidates, we basically look for anyone, just any youth who looks at tech as a place where they see tech as an enabler, because we want everyone to see tech as an enabler. So one of the places that we look for the youths is universities, and we majorly also go to undeserved communities so that we can give young people access to the program. So our program, just to qualify for the program, all you need to be is that you just need to be over 18, just need a laptop, and also a laptop and just access to internet to be able to access the program. So some of the challenges we faced is just being able to allow, like what you've said, women refuse to show up authentically, just seeing this space as a place where me as a woman, I can actually be in the tech space just like any other man. So another thing that we do is that, I'm losing my trail of thought. So another thing that we do is that when we're offering our scholarship program, 40% is specifically for women. Wow. And we do that so that women can see the tech space as a place that is inclusive, and also just creating an environment where women can see, okay, this person has been able to do it, and myself I can be able to do. So this year in March, in honor of International Women's Day, one of the things that we did at Powerland Project is we launched a Power Women in Tech movement. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that, we wanted to create a space and a platform where women can be able to access mentors, they can be able to access resources, and they can be able to access funds. So that if you're a woman, you can actually learn from someone who's been there before you. So we create an environment where that is very inclusive, that allows women to see, okay, there are many men who are in tech, but also as a woman, I can be able to access the tech space.
Wow, that's beautiful. Round of applause, please. It's strange that in most spaces that you never get to know the support when you're coming into the tech space. Right? You mentioned that you dedicate 40% to women and you also offer fully funded scholarships. Yeah? I think we need to be more loud about such initiatives also within our circles and also even in our villages, yeah? Because it's easy for us to assume just because somebody is from a particular community, then they do not have either the capacity or the woman power, you know, to come up and you know, dominate the tech world, yeah? And that's so beautiful. And also speaking of dominating, Mercy, how have you transitioned over time, you know, from your previous roles, and who have been your CMS, and to be specific, maybe your coaches, you know, mentors and sponsors who are mentioned in different rooms, and how has that led you to being a public policy director?
Loaded question. And I will take it first from you just appreciating the points that have been made by my fellow panelists, and I will start from debunking for those who are probably looking at tech and thinking you need to be a software engineer or need to be in, like, you know, a solid engineering course. I'll tell you something about tech. I have zero tech training in terms of engineering or all those things, but I'm in tech. And dominance is a word I fear, because when I worked at Safaricom, we were very keen not to be declared dominant, and so when I dominate. But I'm bringing back that point to raise the fact that I studied education, so I'm a teacher actually, just so you know, and I'm now a teacher in tech. And I'll tell you, I profess the Christian faith, and one of the things that I have come to constantly believe is that there are no coincidences in life. Do you guys believe that?
Yeah.
Do you know that you're placed in certain places for a reason, and it's probably because your path and purpose set for you in life is very good. It will need each and every one of those experiences and people that you meet in your life. I'll tell you that I went to study education at the University of Nairobi in Kikuyu campus. Wow. I did education in accounting and economics, because I was at the time studying in Strathmore. Taking up accounts, that's like a private joke, because, you know, like Alliance people and now Strathmore people, you must say you were in Strathmore. So I'm just making sure that that lands. But I was studying accounting, so I have a background in accounting and have later now taken up more trainings around, let me say, social sciences, right? And I'm saying that because the world of tech, the ecosystem of tech needs very many people. You have those who will be sitting behind computers, coding, writing programs, developing the product being, for example, by the time you see cloud computing being possible, or platforms like Facebook, Instagram being possible, or any of those things that you see that are tech in front of you, there's been people who have put together that effort to think about how will this work technically, those things you're talking about in the product phase. But there is also a lot of people in that chain that will be required to be able to enable the adoption of that product, creating the right space for it in terms of, for example, in my role, like I said earlier, public policy, I'm constantly thinking about, yes, you may have, you know, Esther has mentioned the fact that you need to just have a laptop, be 18, and have internet access. You assume internet access is everywhere. In your shags, if you know where your shags is, do you have internet access that's stable like in Nairobi?
No.
There needs to be someone that is constantly making advocacy or lobbying government or sitting with government to see how do we enable access to these people, so that then there can be more tech people with access. Because you make the assumption that those things exist for it will not be a techie, an engineer, going to make that happen. And so there is lots of roles that are within the tech ecosystem, which is the point I'm trying to make. So just saying that wherever you are, do not sit there feeling, oh my God, no, I'm not a computer science graduate, I'm not this, I can't be in the tech space. Tech space carries all and sundry. I'll tell you that to work at Meta, for example, we need everyone. We have people whose backgrounds are maybe in criminology. There's people whose backgrounds are in safety of children. There's people who are, why? Because all of these people are coming together to think about how is the experience of this person sitting wherever in the world that is accessing Facebook safe for them. How do we make sure that if someone has thrown a bad word at them, we can action that word and understand that it was actually a bad word and have it removed? As an example, that doesn't take, for example, the engineer. As an example, and I'm not undermining engineering, it is a beautiful course for those who are in tech and STEM related courses. Absolutely, I advocate for that 100%. It's a key part in enabling the tech ecosystem, but just saying that there is room within the tech ecosystem to have many, many more people. And so maybe in line with that, as a segue to the question you've asked me, I've stood on the shoulders of so many people, men and women alike, to get to where I am. In fact, I argue that, I'll start with just in this very room. So you know what? That lady that is even filming, she's probably going to be telling my auntie, look, she's talking on a panel. She's one of the women that I have stood on the shoulders of. She's actually Esther's mom. What are the odds that I'm in a panel with Esther, who was a child? She probably played with my cousins who were little, but her mother and my auntie are very, very good friends. And so what was her mother in my wedding? She was at my wedding. Auntie Wakeki. How about that? Please just applaud Auntie Wakeki. And it took a lot of guidance and support from women like that in my life to even become a confident person that can express themselves. There's a lot of things one can do to be able to just empower the next person. Sometimes it is just speaking affirmative words, like you have had the privilege of having in your lives, people who will tell you, yeah, you can do it, you can apply for that job, absolutely, you are qualified. And to then check your biases about whether you can or cannot. And for me, those are some of the ways in which I have continued to grow. Mentorship has been very central to my life, and it is still central to my life now, me as a mentor to other people, but I still do get mentored. And that has come from within my own social network. So my parents, very supportive. My father, you cannot tell him a bad thing about me because I was that child who brought the good grades all the time. My brothers are totally envy with, I could ask for things, they wouldn't be able to get the same things. They would be told, umesoma, umefanya homework, umemaliza, like, what were your grades? I would always get those things I wanted. And there's just that support and just affirmation to keep me going and to make me feel that I could do whatever I put my mind to do. So I started from the home, and I think I still go back to that point. It's very important that whatever social circles you're in, whether you're a parent or not, to think about how you're affirming people and building them up. It really does help to set them up for success, whether it be in their careers or just even how they socially interact with each other, and it just helps to pay it forward in that way. So home setting, my relatives, my auntie, for example, my friends, we do a lot of supporting each other. There's a lot of women in tech communities that I sit in. I think being part of a community is a really critical part of you growing as a person. You cannot exist by yourself, because then how do you pick up new insights about what is happening? A tech space is very dynamic. It changes every day. If you're not staying on top of what are those things, and some of those things you pick up from sitting in communities, hanging out with people who are in the same space as you. So if you want to develop yourself, and that's what I've had to do, to think about, okay, I don't have a background, say, in a science-related course in that way, because I do social sciences is my thing. How do I make sure that I'm able to understand and articulate, for example, what is AI? Now AI is the buzz everywhere. I was talking AI. I'm in a company that relies on AI fully in making sure that our platforms are able to be accessed similarly across, that we can place targeted advertising to you, that we can tell what your preferences are for the kind of content we show up in your newsfeed, whether you're on Instagram or Facebook. All that relies on data that has actually been curated specifically to understand your preferences and how you roll within our platform, so that we can give you targeted content that makes sense to you. And so AI is very much, for example, a part of my life. And so I think about how do I enable or empower myself to be better understanding these concepts. The other thing I think about is how can I use my role, expansion of these spaces, to get more people into that tech space. And that really is actually where I feel my calling and purpose in the tech world is about. And the reason why I've only worked in tech from the beginning. And part of the reason is I grew up in the village. I mean, when we were having a chat about this podcast coming up, I flagged that very intentionally, because the village, like I was saying earlier, is one of those places where you actually have such limited access to anything, especially before devolution. Now, a lot of places, the counties and other places, have enabled a lot of, let me say, tech empowered environments. Previously, you didn't have that. If you went beyond Nairobi, literally, into Limuru and other places, you'd lose your connectivity, you'd be without connection for a while, and so on and so forth. Those challenges have since been, bridged in terms of the gaps to accessing digital, but we still have those gaps. And for me, I just recognize that I have, I'd say, a strength in being able to advocate and play a role in seeing how we can close our digital spaces more and more. And so it's not just from the perspective of connectivity, for example, getting more people into, to have internet access, high-speed internet access, not just any. But it's also, how do we enable access to devices, just little things. When you think about the journey of someone within the tech environment, their basic that you must have is the connection and a device to access the connection. That could be a phone, in this case a smartphone. It could be a laptop, like Esther was saying, for example. All of that requires work to enable that to happen. And then now you're there, you've now accessed. So now here you have internet and you have a phone or a laptop. How do you even know what to do now? You're in the environment, whether it be, for example, you're on Facebook. What do you do on Facebook? How do you ensure that you're supporting the understanding or building up of the digital skills for people to be able to actually execute on those tech spaces to make them useful to them? And so there again, there is a whole ecosystem of folks who will be involved in helping maybe to create locally relevant content. It will be the Powerland folks. It will be all of us in our different spaces, that you have a cloud where you can save your data if you're from Amazon. You have all of these people. You have a hospital that maybe requires you to have a very simple app or application to register yourself as you're coming into the hospital. All of these things are enabling you to be able to use that access that you have in tech. And there's a whole effort there. And so access in that way means, in my view, enabling digital skills or upskilling of people to have basic understanding of how to navigate tech spaces. Not everybody is able to do that. For all of us who have the privilege to have that experience, it's how do you speak or share that information or knowledge in how you interact with your friends. Show them, just, did you know how to keep yourself safe on Instagram? Do you know that if you're getting someone bullying or harassing you, or you're seeing posts that you do not like, you could block, or you could do this and that, or you could use these resources in the help center to be able to, there's just things like speak out and build up others in that way. And then along that same journey, you have now been able to access and develop, and there's all of these things that are happening to be able to use that tech space. But there's outcomes at the end. There is innovation.
It should become a techie, but I would say we should, as parents, probably we should also strive for, our kids to sit in those spaces and to create things that represent us, and that is how we will not be replaced by robots. Because then, in the tech space, you can be a consumer, you can be an advocate, or you can be a producer. In most cases, we've, stayed in the consumer and now getting into the advocacy. Let's get into the production. And the people who are going to get the real skills to be able to produce, in most cases, are the generation that is coming after us. So if we have enough of that critical mass that is, tinkering with, with the chips and things and creating things and getting excited about that, and keeping that skill as well in the country, one way or another. When I'm with government folks, I like to poke fun at that. Like, as a country, we can't have a policy of exporting all of our skills and saying, become a doctor so you can go work in the UK, and become a software engineer so you can go to Silicon Valley. But what happens to our Silicon Savannah, and what happens to our hospitals here? So keeping that skill, and we have fantastic universities that are also doing a lot of interesting things. But then, really, the conclusion here is, let us strive to raise scientists. Now we have, a cure for cancer? I think there's, a cure for HIV now. There was a cure for malaria coming out of, Kenya as well. So all those things, and then they end up being patented, Kikoi in Holland, by other, countries, and then we say, oh, but this came out of this country. What do you mean? But it's because we are not prioritizing building and protecting our innovations and investing in the innovations and investing in our education system, and by extension in our children, to be able to do the hard things so that we are represented at the table.
Yeah, that is so true.
Sylvia, can I just add to something she said? Hopefully not revealing too much, but when AWS launched probably about, I think, sometime last year, October, September, thereabouts. And one of the biggest conversations then was, we need to hire engineers who are at the same level as engineers in the US, engineers in India, and if you've worked with Indians, you know they are really good at what they do. And so that was quite a challenge for some of us because we were starting out and thinking, will we get the resources? Surprise, surprise. When we started hiring, you don't realize how much talent is sitting in this country until you start hiring and you're realizing, wow, you're even better than what we already have. You keep praising the bar every time. And that was quite an encouragement for me, just knowing that, and some of them, when you talk to some of these engineers, you realize some of them have actually self-taught. All they needed was a laptop behind a screen, and they self-taught, and they become as good as what is already out there. And so that gives me hope, knowing that for the generations that are coming up, there is hope. We can actually, what you're saying, we can have people sitting in the same room as what we used to think was privilege. Now that is available to us. And out here, they are really talented young people, really, really talented. And I think we are not short of talent. We just need to realize which spaces do we need to be in. And like what you said, we now stop being consumers and just, what was that? Yes, and now become producers. Like we need to get to that place. We need to sit in that place. I hope for those who work in the policy space, to find a way to just advocate for us so that we get some of our very qualified engineers to sit in the producing space.
Yeah, that's a challenge. Yeah?
And I want to jump on that point, but I'd love to hear your question in case it's going to link to what I'm about to say. I want to disagree slightly, with all due respect, on the world being at a level playing field where we can say we are similar to, say, someone sitting in the US. And the reason, again, is because of what I was talking about earlier in terms of the gaps that exist in the digital space are still so significant in our region. And I love what you two have said with regards to how do we better our education system, how do we do those. The reason why we would even say that is because there is a gap that we already realize. When you would say, for example, Indians are very good, do you know why that is the case? STEM as courses are introduced from when they're kids. There is a huge investment by government and by people, organizations and others, to ensure that there are many people from a young age that are picking up STEM. Why that is significant is because, again, maybe because I wear this public policy hat too much. I'll tell you something with regards to just why that is not level. You may have the same internet, but again, you will be sitting in Nyamira wondering, this internet they say is, haven't you talked about unafinya computer ni gani, your computer ni gani, your internet iko wapi? You don't have the same, even with the knowledge of what you could do if you were together, if you don't even have the basics of a connection, the device, affordability, which is a huge fact. And why these things are important and why I feel like my role and those of others who are in the public policy space is also important, much as all of the others as well are really important. Why it's important to have like the entire ecosystem really working hard to make sure that we are enabling to getting that flat place you're saying where everybody has the same access is because public policy, maybe I'm just championing for more to join this space. Public policy really is the mandate of government. Governments through the ministries. If you think about, let me take you back to just a little lesson on how public policy works. We are going to go into an election year in 2027, right? We will hear many candidates come in front of us and tell us what they will do if they became the president, if they became the MP, if they became this and that. Those promises at that point are called manifestos, right? People come and say, tawajengea barabara, kila mtoto kwa hii country atakuwa na laptop. All of those are just like, they're like aspirations, they're manifestos suggesting to you why you should put them into power. Assuming the person at the helm of that is the person now, for example, maybe say the president now becomes president, what they were saying to you during elections becomes what they have to now execute because walikuambia, see, they promised you. So now they have to come and execute that. So they put now in place those things in form of now policies, which means if they said every hospital will have a cancer treatment, center, they now have to find a way of how that will be executed from a policy perspective, like to put a provision for it, then have that broken down into, do we need laws that will support these policies that we've given, or does it remain as a policy and things? So that's how now this thing becomes actualized. The policies themselves are written by ministries, right? So ministries, whether you're Ministry of Health, you'll deal with health-related policies. If you're Ministry of ICT, you'll think about those one child per laptop, whatever. You'll have to find a way to execute that. So the public policy space, in my view, is about how do we address these challenges or concerns by ensuring that we have policies that address this challenge or concern for everyone, for the public. That why I disagree respectfully is because we have, for example, it's a lovely thing to be able to go to Harvard. I would absolutely wish for that to happen. But is it practical also to have everyone be able to go to Harvard or to London School of Economics or all of these Ivy League places? No, it's the reality. We'll never be able to all be in those places, and it would be great to have many Kenyans and many other people from the continent be able to do those and come back and import that knowledge into practical uses and use cases on the ground in region. And that must happen. But what is fundamental to make the change shift for everyone is how do you address that for all of the public? How do you make sure data is affordable for everyone so that if I want to get onto the internet with 10 shillings or less, I can still be able to do that and do a proper download, a proper streaming, have good quality of service, be able to do that easily with a simple phone that didn't cost me millions. And I'm, like if it's a family that is humbly on, I don't want to put a number, but meager resources, we don't have to break bank to own a smartphone in our home. Still, to date, we still have a lot of families, and unfortunately many women who are left behind in having access. Why? Because in many homes, in those rural settings, and even here in the city, in many homes, the smartphone is for the dad of the home. The rest of you on like a kabambe, isn't it? It's the reality. Are we in the same communities? Or it's just news from shads?
Yes, we are.
And so you find a situation where, much as you would want, for example, that woman who probably if she had a smartphone in her hand would immediately be able to, if she's a Maasai woman who does good beadwork, be able to put on Instagram a picture of her beadwork and get a customer tomorrow or even today. Can't, because that smartphone is for the mzee. Na kama mzee hajakupatia, now it's your turn to use it. You're not using. So there is the question of access for me is like, it's urgent from yesterday, not today. Like everyone, I feel like, has to make that possible. For us to get the place where I can say it's flat, we all can access similarly. I just, visited recently the US, and I was amazed. I was visiting with a cousin, and we went to their library in their neighborhood. It's free. They don't pay a single shilling. In that library, the place is so stocked with books. It's an entire building. It's like the way you can have this entire floor all the way to the other wing with books. This section has books for young teens. This one is books for little kids. There's an area where they can sit and draw and color. All this is provided by government. They have a section that is just for if you want to do audio reading. Like you have computers upon computers. You can come and dock your what do you call it, iPad if you have one, and if you don't, you can access, you just ask the library that you sign out an iPad. You can do all of that. And I was just like, when will we get here? I would love for someone who is sitting in Nyahururu, where I'm from, or somewhere else, to have the same access, because if that happened, they probably would be able now to give those local solutions for their problems because they are within their context and are empowered. And so for me, I feel like that urgency for us to just bridge those digital gaps is like fundamental to everyone. And it's the reason why I enjoy and thrive and love to continue doing that within the spaces that I'm in, because I recognize the fact that to be able to do it at scale, meaning, for many people at a go, we have to fundamentally change the rules around it, which is the policies. Like, why do we have affordability as an issue? What do we need to do? Do we need to strengthen partnerships with mobile operators? Do we need to require maybe more bandwidth investment in network systems that can allow for more people to be able to access, and so on and so forth? So those are my challenges every single day, and I'm proud to be in a space where, if today we have a national AI strategy, which is a fantastic document to have as a country, we now know we can enable maybe a whole developer community to be able to start to think about how do we innovate solutions around AI for Kenya? How do we put data that might help us to profile better through automated systems an African person who's male or who's female and with these features that are similar to us, and so on and so forth, within those systems. But first, it fundamentally has to provide access, make it easy for you to be adopted. So language, like people who are working around, we need to have it in local languages. Do we have it in Swahili? Do we have it in Maasai? Do we have it in Kisi? Do we have it in Kikuyu? Yeah. So that even that person who has no English knowledge can be able to participate in that ecosystem. Those things are, in my view, really, really urgent for us to be able to do, even as we continue to do the rest. But I agree fully, for example, with what I saying, like, education is really at the core of it. How do we make sure, and what also you were saying, Linet, that we are building the pipeline of talent, of people who can now come up and now innovate and build those solutions for us, because they are from here and they have the skills to do it because they have been trained on it. And so those spaces for sure we have to do better at. Like, I just need to jump on that point to just bring that up here.
That's beautiful.
Just to add on to something, I just remembered when she was speaking some of the challenges that we faced when we started rolling out Powerland project. And in the beginning we learned that even getting learners, and especially in rural areas, it was very difficult. And we had to diversify and just think about how do we change how we communicate. So we had to think about how do we use language that allows us to demystify tech, so that anyone, a woman who's out there, can think of, okay, this is tech, this is somewhere I can be able to actually, it's a place for everyone. So, and also we also use language to make them know that this is a place that is inclusive for everyone. So she mentioned that, and I felt that it's something I should just mention.
I mean, I just want to say, as a builder, one of the things we are having to learn, and I've learned it 10 years ago when I worked near Linet at another space, and now is we're always also needing to think about context. So every business you're engaging in right now is relevant in another part of the world. And so I'm always struggling to think at scale, and I love that she's thinking about things at scale, but it's always this thing that I'm doing here and now, can it work somewhere else in another part of the world? And what would that mean for me if I was to provide my services in another part of the world? Earlier in the morning she mentioned Dubai, and I just remember that one time I had students in Dubai, and at 8 a.m. I'd log into my Zoom, and their mom would sit with them. They were 7 and 10, and then I have my kid here and they have their kid there, and we have the camera on, and then I'm teaching them how to build a robotic arm, but they're all the way in Dubai. And I never had imagined that this thing which I'm doing as a hobby here in Kenya would scale that far. So thinking about even making access possible, even the things you're making now or doing now, how would you translate that to the world? A few months ago, someone changed, the techies were told show up, and then we had everybody making videos about the finance bill in their languages, and it traversed across the country. I thought that was so cool. We had people building GPTs overnight because people who knew how to build worked with people who had the content to collaborate together. So just think about how what you're making now can not only solve for here, but also for across, to help reduce this bridge of they're much more advanced there than here. But access is so important for sure, yeah.